Spoilers ahead, fucknuts.
See many things. I see plans within plans.
There is a place terrifying to us. A man will come. He will go where we cannot. Many men have tried.
They tried and failed.
They tried and died.
I'll miss the sea.
That Polytratus. Big dick
But a
energy.
person needs new experiences. They jar something deep inside. Without change, something sleeps inside us. The sleeper must awaken.
Oh, it's that good old spice shit. The spice must flow. The spice is nice. Paul Spice. Paul Atreus, Spice Lord. Definitely wears Old Spice. Well, if you couldn't tell, we've just watched the old Dune. Welcome to Retro Rewind, everybody.
Yes, we watched the 1984 Dune
Yes.
that David Lynch did, which he did Twin Peaks, which is a show from the 90s that you've seen some of, right?
Yes.
It's very awesome but baked show at the same
Good
time.
baked. It's a well baked cake
Yeah.
of a movie. Just
And
like I would say this is also pretty
this
baked.
is definitely baked at points. This is trippy at points.
Oh yeah.
They got some really trippy stuff in this, and I think this one, oh no, it was PG-13. I was thinking this was R because like they had some disturbing shit in this one, like when they first introduced like the Harkonnen dude.
Oh, dude, the ugliest fucking
The blood
bastard
and
I've
the
ever.
blood and everything. Like I was like, okay, so this one must be R. Like watching that, and it says
A little bit of
PG-13.
blood is R. God.
No, he like ripped the thing's like heart out almost. Well, it wasn't a heart technically, it was like a little chip, but then like blood was like spewing out of it and everything. I was just like, damn, this is a disturbing scene.
You just need to enlighten your mind with spice, and it totally is just average day.
Just an average day.
Just an
for
average day in
Harkonnen.
Arrakis.
That's actually pretty light for them.
It kind of is actually.
But
Yeah.
yeah, this movie was interesting because we just saw the newest Dune movie, Part 2.
Great movie. Perfect movie of the year.
Yes. Definitely, it's only February, but
Yeah, I
definitely
know.
the best movie we've seen
Best movie of
so
the year
far.
already. Already.
We know it's going to be the best.
I already know it's the best thing. Best thing. All
So
the
we-
others, shit.
So yeah, we saw that, and we were such huge fans of it, we knew we had to do a retro rewind for the original too. And honestly, I've been wanting to see this because I've never seen it.
Yeah, well, you just been seeing like the memes, like the South Park references and stuff like that
Exactly,
they did to
that's
this,
the
and
only
was like, oh,
exposure I've really had to
I wonder
it.
where that's from.
And then I knew his name was attached to it, so I was kind of like, okay, that's got to be some trippy ass shit, because Twin Peaks is definitely weird at points.
Oh yeah,
And yeah, watching it today, it was definitely a lot of fun, because I don't know if you've seen those things, but like, it's like MCU if it started in the 80s or something like that, and it's like all these 80s actors like as like Captain America or Thor or something like that. This almost since I haven't seen this yet, this almost reminded me of if like literally something like that actually got made. I'm like, oh, you got Patrick Stewart as Gurney, you got Kyle MacLachlan, the guy that's the main character of Twin Peaks. You got him as Paul here.
Dude, I love Patrick Stewart's like weird bald mullet he has. Oh,
Yeah.
it's funny as fuck to me.
No, he was good in this, and I yeah, that thing just fucking was so that interested
just
me too.
It's
That was like
such a weird hairstyle.
That was a
I've never
character of
seen.
its own.
I've never seen it before, but until this movie, and it's like, oh my god, it's just so funny to me.
He could be like an older Joe Dirt.
Oh my god, it's like a Joe Dirt that was going like actually instead of if that was his hair, it was just going bald, and he just didn't want to cut the rest. Yeah, it's literally that.
Make it so.
He's balding, but he still refuses to accept it, so he's just gonna keep growing his hair out.
Patrick Stewart is an older Joe Dirt.
Oh my god.
Because those movies are so great.
I feel like in this movie it'd be Joe Sand. Joe Sand.
Joe Dirt, but he's in the Dune universe.
Joe Spice.
But yeah, so I thought this movie was really interesting. I thought the pacing for it was actually pretty good, considering it's not like a part 1, part 2 like this new one was, and it's basically them telling both parts in less with a less runtime of even the first movie.
Yeah.
Of the Dennis Villeneuve ones, because that one was like 2 hours 20 minutes, and this is literally like 2 hours 10. So yeah, they're able to fit a lot in here, but as we kind of talked about earlier, some of the problems with some of these things that like we just saw with the new Avatar show is like when you have something where there's like so much to the story, like it can be a little weird when you're trying to condense all of that.
Yeah, you gotta change a few things type of.
Yeah. But so I definitely noticed like towards the beginning it wasn't as noticeable for me because like you had the stuff from the first movie with Paul and like him having to stick his hand inside the box and shit like that. And I thought like all that stuff was definitely like familiar. But like I liked how they approached it in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Because you knew this, you know, like even though it was not new to me, like I was like, okay, so this is the original time people saw like this scene basically, because I always thought that was such an awesome scene in the new one when like he's sticking his hand into the box.
Oh, he hurts.
It's just like
unless you're the fucking Harkinson guy from who's in the new one, fucking was getting a Woody off of it.
Who, Dave Bautista or
No,
Austin Butler?
Boston Butler's kid.
Oh yeah.
Remember, like he was like he put his hand in the box and he seemed to like it.
Yeah.
He's like he likes pain.
Well, that was the other thing. Like
that was in the new one. But
those characters were not fleshed out like at all here.
Oh yeah, no, they're just villains.
Yeah,
they're
and
basically
barely
just
in it.
fill in the villain
Exactly.
thing in there.
They're barely in it too, which is like Foyd Roitha and I forget what Dave Bautista's character's name is, but
one of the other ones, the pussy one,
it's like Banan or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like something like that.
He was not the obvious favorite one of the family.
Yes. Even though he's the like jacked one, they treated him like the little bitch.
Kind of was a little bit. That little shit in the new one, in the new.
Even though
dude
Austin
made him
Butler's
his bitch.
skinny as fuck, and then the other one's just fat. And
He's
can
just an
barely-
absolute sociopath. That's what it was. I'm like Dave Bautista's. Anyway, we're talking about the new one again, but that's another podcast.
But like, it was interesting to kind of see like the villains here because they did do some things kind of interesting. Like I thought they were creepier here.
They were very more creepy.
Yeah.
They went.
They're creepy in the
really
new
fucking
ones,
creepy.
but they're really creepy in this. Like, 'cause
Yeah,
they just
this-
have like scabs and shit. Like they're disgusting.
Yeah, they're covered in boils and stuff like in like gross like blemishes and stuff like that.
Mhm.
They also get the weird ass like the weird ginger hair type thing going on for some reason.
Yeah, I didn't like that, but I guess it kind of worked for like
It's
making
like
them.
they all
gross
look like
almost.
they all looked like Carrot Top with receding hairlines,
Yeah.
but and also a lot worse skin. Like oh my god, the skin was disgusting. Like especially on the fat one, the fat floating, the Baron.
Yeah,
Ugh.
you could see it was totally like an '80s like. I don't know. I feel like the villains were never really fleshed out in a lot of these '80s ones.
They're not
like some of
fleshed
the
out, but
older
they look.
movies.
They always do look
Yeah.
the part. I will give that to the '80s. They made their villains look actually menacing.
But sometimes like they
But
feature
not
so
exactly
little
fleshed
into
out.
the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of the problem with them here. Even though with the new ones, like I thought the villains like weren't the best. Like they were a little like it's like kind of the same thing with this '84 one. Like they're just a little generic. I feel like with these Dune ones, like which part of that is this is a series that started in 1965 that like kind of got like
Good
an
old
adaptation after things like Star Wars and Star Trek had already been like the first ones that like made like were sci-fi legends and were the popular ones, you know?
Yeah.
So a lot of things that like this actually started or they took inspiration from with the books, like, you know, is seeming like it's repeating old stuff already kind of. But so I always try to keep that in mind with like Dune. And especially with this one too, since I'm now seeing the '84 one after the newest ones. But yeah, there was a lot to kind of appreciate here.
Oh,
I think the visuals were great.
Yeah, the visuals were good. They also go a lot more into the importance of spice too in this one than the new ones. New ones do bring it up, but it's more in the background. It's kind of more of a background thing a lot more of the time. In this one, it's straight up. almost every conflict or sentence, it's like, we must control the spice. He who controls the spice controls the galaxy. It's literally a big, it's a lot more, it feels more of a big role in where it's more central of a conflict, for the spice at least.
Yeah.
In the other one, it's the spice was, important, but it's more like,
secondary.
It's less mentioned. It's more of like something just to give like conflict, like them
With
blowing
all the
up the spice
visions and
stuff in order to get everyone pissed off the Baron and stuff like that.
Mm.
It's like, it's more like a tool for that. In this one, it's like more focused on how spice is something else other than just essentially space oil. It's something that powers everything. All the people love to use it for this shit. Now they get taking a nice line of spice in the morning, get you going. Ooh.
Yeah, I feel like this one, also the CGI aged pretty well too.
Other than the shields.
It's the shield. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah, those fucking Minecraft shields.
They look like a Minecraft characters in the shields in this one. It's so funny to me.
It's so bad. But everything else looks great, like the ships and stuff. Like they look fantastic. They honestly look at like the Star Wars prequel level pretty much, and this is like 20 years before that. About not Phantom Menace because that was 99, but by the time you got to like Revenge of the Sith, that was like 2005 or 6 or whatever.
I know you mean. No, I know what you mean. And this one, they also did like have to rush a few more things to like speed up the stuff just to get your good ending because, like you said, it was like 2 hours 10 minutes. You said this one was?
Yeah, I think so, or 11 or something.
It's actually kind of impressive they were able to fit all that shit into like a little bit of a 2-hour movie.
Well, part of it is like, I don't know if I would really say it's a negative thing. Like, I think it would be for some people, but there's a lot of exposition. Like, at the beginning, like, they have, like, the whole, like, original Blade Runner thing where they have, like, the princess come on and, like, she's the narrator kind of, like, telling you all this shit, like, exposition for, like to kind of set up the story for you a little bit.
Yeah.
And I love how she, like, too, like, set part of it up, and then she was like, and then she, like, faded out, and then she's like, oh, yeah, I almost forgot. Like, she literally says that. And then she's like, Paul Atreides. And I'm like, what? You literally almost forgot to set up the main character of this movie? You're literally the narrator, and you almost forgot.
She just hates him.
She forgot to set up Paul and, like, Arrakis, I think. She's like, or maybe that's what it was. She's like, the planet Arrakis is also
maybe
known
the director
as
just
Dune.
the person whoever made this just really loved the politics more than anything. They loved the whole HRE feel of the of this world, but then they're like, oh shit, yeah, hold on, Arrakis too. Fuck, we gotta get into the Arrakis storyline.
And then immediately after that, like with the exposition at the beginning with her, it cuts to like, I think basically that scene at the start of the where Paul is looking like at the training stuff on his computer or whatever, and it's like it's all the planets basically, like not all the planets though, but literally like the 4 that feature in the movie.
Yeah,
it's like there's planet blah blah blah, home of House Atreides, planet blah blah, blah blah. I'm like, wow, they're literally like wicked on the nose with it.
Dude,
but
I think they really love the world Dune, but in that sense, I think the creator of this did. And then like that's why I felt the beginning felt really did feel really fleshed out with the politics, yada yada, the slow turn. But then once you get to the Freeman, or what was it, the Freeman?
The Fremen.
Yeah. That's what it was. And he kind of sped through that storyline.
Yeah, I didn't like that part as much. I liked the beginning a lot, or I felt like it was doing a pretty good job of like recapping most of the first one in like a shorter amount of time. But then by the time you got to like the Fremen one, I think that was kind of the sacrifice. Is like you didn't really buy like how they just kind of like instantly like bought into him. Like the
director realized he was like, oh shit, we gotta keep this within like around the 2-hour mark.
So basically he meets them and they instantly see him as a god and trust because there's none of that conflict of like there were some of them like that don't trust him or they had none of that in this one.
I think I think a lot of that also had to do with the the typical he was like, all right, we all know the story. This is Dances with Wolves but with fucking space Arabs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's we have to skip this mark we got to keep this within 2 hours. We can't do 3 hours in the 80s. Fuck you. It's just
No, literally.
so
He's
they
like, the audience isn't gonna give a shit, guys. Come
and then
on.
they sped up, of course, the ending, and they made Paul basically at the
A god.
at the very. Or I did like how they implemented the voice
Mm.
that Paul has more in this. Him getting like fucking overpowered with, or basically Fuzro dying.
To me, it did
on
seem like
people.
he became like wicked overpowered, like way too fast.
I mean, yeah,
Like, it was
like I
more
said, that's because
natural with
they
the
had
two
to speed up
parts,
the fucking Freeman storyline and everything like that.
But not terrible.
No,
like,
not terrible.
but just a little too fast for me. But
Just sped up. Like I said, after them kicking out Paul and killing off the Atreus bloodline, and then they're
but
like,
for being an
they had to
80s
rush
movie
it.
and being over 2 hours, that was kind of pushing it anyway.
Yeah, exactly, and
You
that's
know?
and that's I think one reason why they had to do it. Because back then they were like, we can't make this 3 hours, guys.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna get bored.
Or even 2.5. You
Yeah.
know, like they just.
This was back then.
They're like, at least for something like this, like a sci-fi one, like we saw that with like Godfather and shit, obviously. But like they were like, this is a sci-fi movie, like.
Yeah, especially it's like this was like Dune was known by like readers and stuff like that, but I don't think it was like known too much by too many people really knew Dune until this
It's
movie
like I said,
came
like
out.
Star Wars, like kind of on Trek and like other things, like eclipsed it almost, you know, because
Yeah.
it was known for the book, but then into other avenues of pop culture, it never really went beyond that. It seemed like for a
Yeah,
bit.
you always hear like the references to Dune some one way or another at times, like in various
South Park.
whether it's their weird way of like speaking to themselves in this movie, or is just them whispering to. I didn't even when I first saw this, I didn't even know they were talking to themselves. I thought they were like talking telepathically or something sometimes, because they're just like, we must take him over, blah blah blah, and they're just like describing, we must overthrow them now. And the only people you ever hear this from are actually like Paul, his mother. Yeah, I think those are the only two that actually have internal monologuing, and those were the two with the voice.
Yeah,
so
you hear
like,
it a lot in this one.
Yeah,
Like
they're
just
like
all sorts of characters doing it, just so you can hear what's like they're thinking at that moment, basically.
yeah, like you don't really hear too much monologuing other than from those two. So it made me think it was like related to the voice thing that they were doing. They're setting up, and then you're like, oh no, it's just them fucking talking to themselves in their own head. But then other moments it is them talking to each other telepathically, because that scene, like when they're captured and they gotta escape type thing. Anyway, so yeah, that was a little confusing when I first watched it originally. But then once I figured out, oh shit, they're talking to themselves. It is just that.
I know. I was wondering that too. I'm
better.
like, are they talking to someone telepathically or?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it was confusing.
It was
especially having seen the newer ones first, where they do that, and then
But it's funny that you
Yeah.
hear a reference to that stuff in like various media things. It's like the South Park thing is still one of the freshest ones I know, where they're just talking to themselves with the whispers.
But it's
and
always
the
cool to see
spice.
that, like when you see references that you don't understand, and then you finally see the thing. You're like,
Where it originally
oh,
came from,
okay,
you're like,
that's where that was from.
Yeah, no, it is cool. It is cool finding that out.
But yeah, so they actually had a couple of the actors from Twin Peaks in this, aside from David Lynch, the creator, doing both. They had Kyle MacLachlan as Paul
Atreides,
who was the Agent Cooper in Twin Peaks, the main guy. And then they also had Everett McGill, who was Stilgar in this, who was Josh Brolin's character in the new one. And then we had Jack Nance, who's in Twin Peaks as well. He was Nefud. So I guess he likes to work with a lot of the same actors, David Lynch.
I wouldn't. Hey, if you can find a crew that you like and the actors you like, yeah, I'd stick to them too if I could.
We also had Brad Dourif, who's Chucky in this, as one of the Harkonnen people.
He's creepy even in this.
He is.
God, he does a good creepy characters.
And then Sting from the Police as Floyd Roitha.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And Patrick Stewart as Gurney.
Patrick Stewart. With what? And you said this was before Star Trek too, and everything, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is what got Patrick Stewart to the sci-fi world. This movie, dude. Calling it here.
Oh, did I say Stilgar was Josh Brolin's character? I meant Javier Bardem's character and Gurney's Josh Brolin's character.
Okay, there you go.
Sorry.
No worries.
But
I've said it right too. I wasn't paying attention. Sorry.
But yeah, they did a good job in this. Patrick Stewart always does a good job, though, I feel like.
Yeah. Even with his ridiculous haircut in this.
I know. Like I said, that added even more character to him. It was a character of its own.
It does. I'm still remembering him. I remember him pretty well compared to the other characters, funny enough. So, yeah, it worked.
But yeah, any other performances you liked in this?
I think they all did a pretty good job. Who was Paul's father in this?
Oh, what's his name again?
The other Atreides.
Oh, Jurgen Prochnow. Duke Leto Atreides, right?
Yep. I believe that's him then. He did a good job.
Yeah.
He funny enough, I did like the whole the when they did the poison tooth gas thing in this one. And it's even though it's a little ridiculous these days with seeing like essentially a giant smoke
When he's
popping
like,
out.
when he blew it in his face.
It's like Godzilla fucking firing his fire breath back in the old days, but it was like but it was I kind of like it's a little charming too. It has its own little charm to it, to be honest. Especially it's just spewing that one guy's fucking face. The other guy he thought it was the Baron, and it turned out to be one of the other
Well, sometimes some of the campier aspects of these things, like, you're either gonna hate or you're gonna love. You know?
Fucking imagine just looking at some dude that you just think he's
And
like
I think
dying, and he just
this is definitely the
smoke in you.
one where I think it's a little bit more charming. I think for most people at least, even the Minecraft.
The
shield
Minecraft
things,
shields.
They're kind of like, you're like, that is so stupid.
Actually,
but
in some points they look like the monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey. You know,
yeah,
the
it's
little
such
monolith.
a weird look.
They kind of
for
make
that.
They just make a perfect rectangle.
But then
at
they have
times.
other
It's kinda
use
funny.
of practical things in this, like the little like light robot things that go over like the what are those the the women? What are they called again?
Oh, you mean the Jesuit sister ones?
Jesuits, yeah. Like the things that go above them and everything, like that. It was really cool, like how like they mix that stuff in.
Yeah,
because we watched a 4K version of it too, and like you can tell a lot of that stuff still holds up to this day. That's why I was saying even the CGI is good too, because a lot of time when they do some of these 4K ones, like the CGI doesn't age well, you know, and like you can tell like it looks great.
Yeah,
like,
it still looks pretty good. It has its own little feel. So it
kind
just
of like
works with the world.
it kind of reminded me of like Starship Troopers, what we watched recently. They kind of had like a similar feel to that.
One of my
like,
favorite movies.
Where you're like, this is old, but like they did a great job.
Yeah,
like,
it still holds up to this day in its own way.
Like maybe there's like one or two things that haven't aged too well, but like it just kind of adds to that campy.
Its own little charm to
it.
Yeah, no, I get you. I do like that, and this definitely has that feeling to it. Even with its Minecraft shields,
And Twin Peaks kind of has a campiness aspect to it, with like the acting almost, at least in like the original 2 seasons.
Yeah,
and like kind of like the soap opera element to it almost too. So that's like always. I thought like I was gonna get some of that here with this, so I was kind of glad that like it wasn't like that at all actually.
Yeah.
So I was like, like. That must have been a purposeful thing for Twin Peaks then. I wondered if that was like a David Lynch thing, because I haven't seen many of his works yet besides Twin Peaks.
One thing I will also praise this movie about is like it has some really interesting and unique designs for things in this. From like the ships like they do have their own little design that look different from most things that you see. The design, like the Emperor's ships that everyone goes into, the Dune world has its own little unique, cool looks to it, which I think really adds on to the world. And
it's not like Rebel Moon where they just ripped off all the ships.
It doesn't look like
some Star Wars. Or
it doesn't look like some generic spaceship. It doesn't look like some generic like throne room or anything like. It actually has its own cool little design that combines like medieval architecture, but also at times like super sci-fi stuff. That
like even though this is different from the new one, like. With how it's at least besides like maybe some of the desert stuff with a lot of the looks, I think it's awesome like that they kind of throw you into the world and it's like just kind of like the new ones, like you really do feel like they did a great job with these sets and like making you feel immersed into the worlds, you know, like making you feel immersed like where you don't just feel like it's fake or like whatever, you know?
Yeah, you can believe it. It makes it feel like, believable in this world.
And I'm sure a lot of that's because they use practical here. Because I mean, there is the mix of the CGI too, but honestly, the mix of practical, like here, I think they focused on that a bit more. Kind of like the new movies.
Yeah.
And it just wins out at the end of the day because it just gives it a look that is going to, like, hold out for a long, long time and look great.
You can tell they cared about the movie, too, and everything. They didn't just make a cash grab type thing or anything. They actually put some heart and soul into it.
You know what's funny, though?
Shows.
The David Lynch, I guess, like has sworn this off, basically.
What?
Like, he considers it, like, a failure. And like he doesn't
movie?
He doesn't like talking about it, and like he's
really
like, he pretty much just like wrote it off.
Really, and I always thought he shouldn't be ashamed of it.
No,
especially
right?
since it got people into the whole series in general as it is. He did his part.
No, that's what I think.
Like if he feels a little insecure just because the new movies have looked really good.
Maybe
comparison.
it's since they came out.
Yeah, maybe he's like, damn mate, I didn't do the best job at this. Yeah, he shouldn't be ashamed. He shouldn't be ashamed at all. He did great what he had back then, and like I said, you can tell there was still a little bit care, and there was still care into this movie. So all the wacky designs, the characters look fucking unique and shit like that. Damn.
He says, I guess like people have offered him to do like a special edition or like a director's cut sort of thing too, and he said like revisiting the movie would be too painful an experience. To endure. So yeah, I don't know, maybe he had a bad experience with this or something, or like how the studio treated him with it.
Maybe
it didn't perform to, maybe they were expecting the next Star Wars, you know, and they were like, what the fuck,
damn it.
This did not do as good.
Yeah.
But what did you think of the ending here with like just having all the characters on the screen or whatever?
Like they really rushed the happy ending part of it. Oh yeah,
all them there smiling like it's like an
beats
intro.
Up the guy.
It kind of reminded me like an intro to like a sitcom.
Declares himself emperor. Makes it rain right away. Everyone's celebrating like it's
just the waves in the background, and then all of them like force ghosting in, like smiling, like.
Yeah, it's
Patrick Stewart as Gurney.
They had, like I said, it was the happy
mullet.
ending. They just that's part of the rush. They just rushed it right in. Like, happy ending, guys, right now, happy ending. His little sister. That's like, what, 9 years old already?
That was weird. That was weird to me. That was just bizarre and seemed like thrown in there.
9-year-old child, put her. She's smiling.
That I didn't understand.
Patrick Stewart smiling.
That I didn't understand. And that whole like what was that like monster thing?
What one?
That like. Just looked bizarre.
Oh, the thing in the beginning where it's like
what was that? Like what character was that supposed to be?
I forget whether that was.
And then there was a whole scene where it was like trippy as fuck, and he was like flying through space and stuff at one point. I was like, what is going on right now? I
still think that thing looked like a giant space fetus inside a tube. It was a test tube baby,
covered
in spice. It was just swarmed in spice.
It looked bizarre. I don't know what that was.
Like I said, there's some definitely acid trip like fucking scenes where you're like, what the fuck is that?
Same thing with the sister. Like, that little girl was weird in this movie.
His sister's got OP powers, man. Like, can't wait for that.
And I love how, like, I think they said, like, 2 years had passed at one point. I'm like, okay. And then, like, they were like, Paul's sister grew at a remarkable rate or some shit like that.
She got a
like,
growth spurt. She had a growth spurt.
So in 2 years after she had been born, she was somehow, like, already 5, basically. What?
I'm not even sure.
Brain hurty.
I don't even know if that was in the books, and I don't think it was, but I could be wrong somehow. And I just fucking passed by that from the old days.
I don't think it is.
I didn't think it was either, but I don't know.
Because I read into them the other day, like, granted on Wikipedia, because I was interested after we saw the new one.
Did that fucking kid grow? God damn it.
But yeah, I didn't see anything like that.
Like, she does have some fucking good,
like
some powerful powers later in the season.
I'm sure, like, the first, like, 4 or 5 books had come out at this point or whatever. So he probably, like, took things from, like, the third one, or the second one, technically.
Oh, yeah.
Saya one or whatever, you know.
Yeah, like I said, they were rushing the happy ending stuff.
they're like, oh well,
Made
actually,
it rain right away too.
I'm not gonna
blah,
do
blah.
anything in Messiah, but I am gonna take that whole Paul's sister thing, and she's gonna be like 5 in this though, an RDOP or something. Like it's just they did some weird thing
We had
like
to rush
that
it.
almost.
Don't make some creative decisions.
But yeah, this was definitely a fun time. I enjoyed watching this. And what do you think a lot of other people would think about this like today?
If they like the more older like 80s sci-fi type movies, this is definitely peak like 80s sci like weird 80s sci-fi type stuff. So
Yeah.
I would definitely they like older sci-fi, I would definitely recommend this this being one to watch list.
Or if you like David Lynch stuff.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little different for him, like if you like Twin Peaks, but if you just like the weird aspect of some of his shit, it definitely has that here.
Yeah.
It's got more sci-fi feel to it, but not as much of a soap opera
Yeah.
or like detective sort of feel to it, or like noir sort of feel or something. But yeah, I think I definitely recommend it to people. I know it's got a cult following nowadays.
Oh yeah.
So
there's
people are
definitely-
kind of harsh on it, but like it's pretty basically got a positive reputation at least, even though it's a little flawed because it just has such a cult following now. But yeah, I'd say it's fun. It went by pretty quick too.
Yeah.
It didn't really drag for too long. So the pacing was pretty good because I think even though you're seeing the problems at points with the pacing and trying to fit everything into like a 2-hour movie, it's also going pretty fast too and not really slogging because of that.
Yeah.
So that is a benefit at least.
But this also brings up another thing. Which worms do you prefer? The giant worms in this one or the new one?
Dude, that fucking new one. They were badass in the new one, especially like the scene when he fucking first went on one.
When he rides it.
Yeah.
The new one. Oh yeah, that is better.
Yeah.
So you prefer the new Wormosi compared to the vintage Wormosi?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't buy that vintage popcorn bucket, that's for sure. That one's probably been used a lot of times by now.
Oh my god. Well,
on that note,
yeah, go give the old Dune a nice watch. It's a classic, and especially if you like old sci-fi movies. And in the meantime, get it right before watching it. Just remember to take a big old snort of that spice, and you'll definitely enhance your
big orange spice or Cheeto dust.
You'll enhance your
Same
experience.
thing, basically.
Take a nice old fucking line of spice. Oh,
or mix it in your food like Paul does.
Yeah. See,
You don't have to do it that way.
No, definitely fucking snort that shit. It's the
Don't be a
fastest,
loser. Don't be
the
a
fastest
loser.
way to get the spice in your brain to reach true enlightenment is to snort the spice.
Thank y'all for joining us, Pose. We'll see you on the next one.
Enjoy.